Welcome to the Midnight Vigil. This is Arcane Reference, where I discuss various horror media that may have fallen under the radar and not gotten the recognition that I believe they should have. Our first episode is going to be about Arkane Studios' sci-fi horror shooter Prey. I will discuss the history of it, what I think makes it interesting and notable, and finally close with the legacy of Prey. So, Prey follows the story of Morgan Yu, a scientist who wakes up on the Talos 1 research station with no memory of how he got there or what is going on. It becomes clear to Morgan pretty quickly that something terrible has happened. As he slowly progresses the story, Morgan begins to unravel the secrets behind the mysterious research that was being conducted on Talos 1, eventually discovering that an alien race known as the Typhon had been studied there and have escaped confinement and are running amok on the station. You know, it's interesting when we talk about the story to this game, because I remember being pretty confused when this game was announced because it shared the name of another sci-fi horror shooter which also dealt with an alien invasion. That was 2006's Prey. I remember really enjoying that game, which focused on Native American mysticism and culture, and had some pretty neat portal mechanics as well. For years and years, I had eagerly been anticipating the sequel to that game, which had been teased repeatedly as being in development, and even had a Game Informer cover and accompanying story dedicated to talking about the narrative and gameplay that Prey 2 was going to have. And I just kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and nothing ever came of it. Prey 2 ended up being cancelled, and Bethesda would end up acquiring the IP rights to the franchise, and inevitably christened Arkane Studios' reboot of sorts Prey. I say reboot of sorts because the timeline on all of this is pretty confusing. Bethesda acquired the rights to Prey 2006, and they restarted development on the project, which had been stalled for a couple of years. But in the end, that was ultimately shelved, and the game that Arcane was working on ended up taking on the same name. Outside of the main protagonist facing an alien invasion, the two projects have nothing in common. There was a very minor controversy before release involving a trademark dispute with a Kickstarter game, Prey to the Gods, and ZeniMax Media, the parent company to Bethesda Softworks. ZeniMax opposed the trademark application of Prey to the Gods because of the use of their trademark and IP association with Prey. Now, Prey to the Gods is spelled P-R-A-Y, and Arcane's game is spelled Prey, P-R-E-Y. Amazingly, this isn't the first time ZeniMax have been involved in a dispute like this. On two previous occasions, they have disputed trademarks for games using the words Scrolls and Fallout, obviously protecting their two most important franchises, the Elder Scrolls and the Fallout series. I actually remember hearing about this before launch and being distinctly annoyed over the pettiness of ZeniMax. Comments in the gaming community were pretty critical of the move as well, which honestly wasn't a very good look for Prey. What's, I don't know, hypocritical here, if that's the right word, is that Arkane Studios had only chosen the name Prey from Bethesda's list of IP because it sounded cool. And here we are with ZeniMax imposing their will on smaller developers for daring to use the same name in a totally different and unique circumstance. Might makes right. What to me makes this game a true classic and well worthy of praise is its look and feel. Its retro-futuristic art style reminds me of the Alien franchise, which is set in the far future but features retro touches like CRTVs, cool visual nods to technology. This really makes me feel nostalgic for the 80s, which is funny because I hadn't even been born yet. um, I really enjoy this style when it's done well, and trust me when I say that Prey bleeds style in a way that I haven't really seen since the BioShock franchise. I'll hold that thought though on BioShock because we're going to be revisiting that in just a moment when we talk about gameplay. The gameplay of Prey is truly emergent in that the player has many different tools in their disposal to solve the problems that the environment presents them. Speaking of emergent gameplay, something really neat about the AI in this game is that the Mimic, a form of the Typhon organism that can take the shape of items in the environment, like specifically coffee cups, which is commented on by some of the researchers in the game who remark that the creatures seem to have a certain affinity for them, to camouflage itself and surprise the player. This AI has been designed by Arcane to be emergent in and of itself. The AI is liberated to take advantage of any of the items in the environment, which makes every encounter with them unique and unscripted. Interestingly, this reminds me of the AI in another great horror game, Alien Isolation, which is pretty interesting too because here we are again with the Alien comparisons. But the AI in Alien Isolation featured uh, really freaky emergent gameplay in that the AI alien would react intelligently to the player. So you could interact with it because there's only one alien in that game. But to make that alien feel scary and unique, the AI was sort of unscripted. And even if you played it on the hardest difficulty, the AI was even more unscripted and would react really clever in like the ways that it would follow you around the environment. The gameplay of Prey revolves around the use of various items and powers, which the player is free to use in any application as they see fit. And the narration really benefits from this emergent gameplay, because the player can also handle their interactions with the NPCs on Talos 1 as they see fit as well. Will you aid the NPCs in their quest to fight for survival, or will you strike them down in your quest to become the most powerful life form on Talos? The choice is yours, and Prey as a game really emphasizes and respects player choice. One of the other really neat gameplay features of Prey is the Psychoscope, an item in-game that allows the player to scan Typhon organisms to research them and acquire their respective powers. You can scan the mimics in the game, and you will unlock the ability to camouflage yourself as well. But the power isn't just designed for camouflaging. You can use this ability in puzzle solving, like turning into a coffee cup, which is seeming to become one of the icons of this game, and maneuvering yourself through locked doors and areas. The drawback here is that the more Typhon abilities a player acquires, the more hostile the security system, namely the automated turrets around Talos 1, will react to the player. If you take too many Typhon abilities, the turrets, which have been designed to shoot Typhon on sight, will react negatively to the player and engage with them in combat. Prey is an obvious homage to System Shock, which veteran gamers will remember for being the series that spiritual sequel, BioShock, became one of gaming's most critically acclaimed franchises. Sadly, BioShock seems to be gone, or at least on hiatus, and System Shock is in a bit of flux as well, with its reboot and sequel both toiling in development hell. The only other modern analogs to this type of gameplay experience, which is usually referred to as an FPS sim type of game, is the Deus Ex franchise, which is also on hiatus, and Arkane Studios' own franchise, Dishonored, which has to date had two successful games, but its own future seems to be in question as well. Do you see the trend here? The story and gameplay are definitely complex enough to allow multiple playthroughs, and the powers and weapons feel interesting and unique. A lot of love clearly went into Prey, so why hasn't it gotten the attention it deserves? It's really tough to say here definitively. It was reviewed very well, which for gamers who are concerned with getting quality experiences for their hard-earned cash is something Prey definitely had going for it. The sales numbers, on the other hand, are pretty underwhelming. Prey launched in May of 2017, free of AAA interference except for the re-release of Mario Kart 8 on the Nintendo Switch, and Prey never really seemed to take off. When I consulted VG Charts, which is a sales aggregate tool which tracks estimated sales of games, I discovered Prey has sold a combined total of about 1.23 million units. On the surface, that may not seem too bad, but considering the lengthy development time spent on Prey and the frankly weird development cycle of Prey 2 and its cancellation, I honestly wonder if Arkane Studios even managed to break even on their investment. What hurts even more about those sales figures is that Prey didn't even break 1 million units on any single platform. Strangely enough, the PC version sold the worst, which doesn't seem to make any sense considering the deep heritage and respect PC gamers have for the System Shock brand of gameplay. The PlayStation 4 version sold the best, and the Xbox One version fell somewhere in the middle. In this modern era where loot boxes and predatory DLC practices are all too common, and gaming companies keep charging more but gamers keep getting less, it's important that we have single-player games that are lovingly created and aren't just made to milk consumers' wallets. In an era where single-player seems to be on the out, which, yes, that is obvious a somewhat hyperbolic statement. Yeah, I know. We honestly need games that reward gamers for their investments. For a game that I pre-ordered for a ridiculous discount before launch, Prey gave me 40 hours of entertainment on my first playthrough, and I expect to get many more out of it considering the nature of the game and its vast replayability. With all of that taken into account, it's sad that it isn't likely that we'll be getting any extra content or a sequel out of Prey. Or will we? Arkane Studios have quietly teased something for Prey that will likely be announced at its E3 conference on June 10th, 2018. We are just going to have to sit tight and patiently wait to see what Arkane Studios have in store for us. I am a big fan of this studio and I love their games, and I'm excited to see what else they can do with this universe because for now, it remains one of my favorite gaming memories. It's pretty sad because it seems like Prey is one of those games that is so good, but very few people have played. The environment feels like handcrafted, it feels unique. You can tell a lot of love has gone into this game, but not enough people bought it, not enough people have played it. It just seems like the sales never really picked up. We'll definitely be covering E3 on this channel as it relates to horror gaming, so we'll just have a bit of a wait till then to see what's in store. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, maybe consider subscribing. Thanks, I will see y'all next time.